Oh, did you already queue it up for single living? No. Okay, let's get this going. Click on that off the bat.
On my end, it says you are co-host.
Well, okay, here we go. Let's see what happens. Usually there's another right on the top. Oh, there. Here we go. Oh, here we go. Okay, we got it. Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram. Now, do I need to get this admit from the waiting room? I guess I can have my little. Moment. No. The soul. We are often relegated to, well, you're just sentimentalist. That's wishful. High ground. That's the general mood of the. That's what people think. Now, frankly, I have a pacemaker. Is the only what I can see with my senses, I believe. Now, anyone ever have a kaleidoscope? You ever have a kaleidoscope when you're a kid? You look at, but it creates these beautiful pictures. Now, we don't have time to go into it right now. You'll see where we're going in a minute. But in some philosophy from the Vedic literature, Sankhya Yoga says that this world is a river of names only. Like now we're calling that couch. But in due course, do you You see the nice seagull here? Everybody see the seagull? He's got his little beak here. Quack, quack, quack. Little eye. Cute little seagull, right? Everybody see the seagull? What do you see now? Senses. The light and the optic nerve and it's the same experience, but when you add in front of it the lens of a particular perception, if you're looking to see a rabbit, you'll see a rabbit. You're seeing the same object, but if you're thinking I'm going to see a seagull, you'll see a seagull. So seeing in and of itself, the physical act of seeing is not sufficient. There's another factor there. What do we perceive? What are we looking for? So seeing in and of itself is not necessarily no horizontal. How about this one? Which dot? Is this dot bigger? This one or this one? It sure looks like this one is bigger. Fact of the matter is that the exact same size. Which way are the birds flying? You know? You have to you look at it this way. You look at so it's the concepts are these sense perception alone is not the whole story. Is the man looking? This one bends the mind. Is it a sideways view or is it front? Which way is he looking at you? You know, that would bend. Hello, make a little keyhole. Put it like this, and try to find me a black dot. What happens? They're not even there. No. So you're, yeah, but it sure looks like they're there. So seeing may be believing. We believe that we saw black dots, but is seeing the same as actually knowing? And there's the famous parable of the blind men who encounter an elephant. One thinks it's a tree trunk, one thinks it's a serpent, it's a spear, a fan, whatever, you know? And then there's all kinds of things that influence. Here's the same thing. Here's at 30 years old. Here's at 75 years old. Same person. So if we navigate by the senses alone, this is one of my favorite pictures, to tell you the truth. See the little sign here? Learn to fly here. Whoops. Something was lost in translation, you know? So if we are navigating through life, we're creating our sense of worth, value, truth. So this is a color wheel. And anyone who's a painter, you can take three primary colors: red, blue, and yellow. From those three colors, you can create all the colors in the rainbow, different combinations of simple three colors: red, blue, and yellow. Every color you see is a combination of those different combinations and ratios. So in the same way, Bhagavad Gita and throughout the Vedas, it describes that there's three modes, like three colors. There's the mode of passion, rajas is the mode of ignorance, tamas, and there's the mode of goodness, sattva. The nature of the modes of nature. Here's what I'm getting at. You've all had your eyes checked, right? And they go click, click, they're adding the lens. Better or worse? Better or worse? So it's a combination of lenses that create your vision. We are seeing the world through a combination of lenses, and that determines our perception. Seeing in the optical experience is not sufficient. The touch is not sufficient. The sense perception in and of itself is not sufficient. So seeing is believing. There's no water at all. So you're seeing, but you're thinking, does it look like water? So first off, you may just be wrong. You may see properly, but you misunderstood what you saw. We may perceive correctly. We may understood what we saw properly, but then it's filtered through cultural bias, conditioning, and predisposition. So there's all these lenses. Perception filter. Here's another one, the lens of our ego or our pride. We see so many things. So seeing in and of itself is not believing. Why does this matter? Because our original premise was blind faith. The fact of the matter is, how do we know what we know? It's a good question, actually. How do we know what we know? And he says that 93% of our body of knowledge, all the different components that create our worldview, we've never experienced. I'll give you an example. In other words, we're already taking on board 93% of our, we have not directly perceived. We have faith. We'll get to that in a second. Anybody here ever, do we knock something over? That's it. Tower or the pyramids could be Photoshop. I saw it on Google. Hey, you take a pyramid, you expand it up, you drop it in the desert, you can do all kinds of things, So why do we believe that the pyramid? Oh, here's another one. Just a step ahead. Anybody here met Christopher Columbus recently? Do we have any Christopher Columbus doubters in the room? Anybody met George Washington? Well, we all believe there's George Washington. We believe in 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. Why do we believe it? Why do we believe in the Eiffel Tower? We trust. So it's not a matter of faith. The materialists, they have people that they have faith in, and that forms their body of knowledge. The followers of the Vedas, we have people that we put faith in. So putting your belief based on faith is not exclusive to the spiritualists. Frankly, everybody, it's just who are you putting your faith in? It's not a question of faith, but who you put your faith in America. And he studies, I don't want to embarrass him. Let us say he gets a very good salary. And what he does is he studies a particular type of laser and the way it transmits itself through a particular type of crystal. I mean, it's a specialized. So Prabhupada, when he was at MIT, I don't know the year, early 66, 67, something like that. He said, you have so many departments in knowledge, but where the element of reality? It's not brain function. We'll get into that in a second. But the point is that what do we actually know? Prabhupada tells a joke. I hope I've got it queued up. There we go. So Srila Prabhupada's joke is that two men are riding on a train. Indian train. I don't know if there's still coal-burning trains in India, but I know when I first went, and they pump out a bunch of black smoke.
Steam rich.
Yeah, the coal. They're throwing the coal in bogies, different compartments, and he's looking for a doctor, right? Finally, no doctor, no. Finally gets to the last compartment. It's a whole group of doctors going to a medical convention. Yahoo! Not quite. This one's a cardiologist. This one's a nephrologist. This one's a podiatrist. This one, all the internal medicine, all the different things. Finally, he finds an ophthalmologist, an eye doctor. So he brings the eye doctor up. Fantastic. Yeah. Eye doctor looks at the man, says, PhDs and masters in hard science that are studying a double PhD, tenured professor at Cornell University, a super smart guy, full-time devotee. He told me this joke. And it gives the context for what we're talking about here. The joke is, a man comes home to his house at night. Nice suburbia. And you know how in the old days they're all laid out, there's a driveway, and there's a house, driveway, lawn, house, driveway, lawn, house, right? So he pulls in, and he sees his neighbor, and his neighbor is out by the street on the maybe you can understand that the neighbor is completely drunk, intoxicated. So our friend says, what are you doing? He said, well, I was trying to open up my door, my house, and I dropped the key. So our friend says, well, you dropped the key up there. What are you doing over here? And the drunk says, oh, this is where the light is. You get the joke? But the point is that we're looking, because we have a narrow band. We'll get into it more. We're going to see what's outside. We'll get to it more, but that's a premise. The Vedas present fantastic stories. This is a picture. We say, not me, but the great Veda Vyas, Narada Muni, Krishna himself, that there's a spiritual dimension, a kingdom of God. Just like there's the sun. And from that emanate so many rays of sun and so many spiritual planets. And in each one of these, then there's a section of this world of creation, of the existence of God, that everything emanates from a supreme person. How is that? How can But the point is, so we believe fantastic stories. You read in the Bhagavatam and the Vedas about great mystic yogis and wait a minute, that's magical thinking. We're going to get into that in a second. Yes, we do not run from it. We believe fantastic stories. The followers of the Vedas. But the point is, the materialists, they also believe fantastic stories. So just as it was not a question of having faith, it's a question of, is that it comes from a tiny point called the singularity. Infinitely small, infinitely dense, and from that, everything emanates. That's their theory. Who's that? The top guy at MIT? He says that all existence is the ultimate free lunch. Literally, that everything came from nothing. Not really nothing, but this tiny. Now, there's so many points. Why that point? Why not this point? They have no definition. I swear to you, this same guy, I've got to help me remember when I go home, I'll Google his name. He also said, he says, give me one free miracle, and then we'll explain the rest. Why this point and why that point? Also, there's a huge question because of the way creation falls out. Like, why doesn't the universe implode on itself? Why doesn't it expand unlimitedly, the creation of life? There's so many factors that have to line up. There appears to be embedded information in that singularity that allows it to unfold as it is. And where did that information come from? Design means designer, but that's a whole other thing. But they ask us to believe that everything came from nothing. You go home and Google it. Dark matter. Dark matter means you can't see it. It's accepted in physics as one of the major forces. You know, there's gravity, there's light force, dark force, mass, all this stuff. So it's one of the forces of the existence. They call it dark matter because you can't see it. There's no proof of its existence. You know what it is? It's a fudge factor. When your checkbook doesn't add up, but they can't find it. So they just add, it must be there. Otherwise, things would spin out or implode. So they call it dark matter. Now, you're an intelligent man. Oh, you are. There's no question about it. You're an intelligent man. I'm running Swami's 7-Eleven. You come in and, you buy some item for $1. I say, thank you very much. You say, Swamiji, where's my change? Where's my $9? I say, no. They're there. You're just dark dollars. Will you accept that? But they're asking us to believe that 90% of the matter that's in 2 dimensions. When you have depth, what is it? Width and depth. But when you add the dimension of height, so suppose between point A and point B, all of a sudden I've got Mount Kailash. Well, all of a sudden, the shortest distance with 2 points is a curve. So as soon as you add other dimensions, all the perception, all of our conceptions, they're out the window. We've got to recalibrate everything. What am I talking about? Here's an example. Because again, the magical thinking, mystical thinking we find in the bar. Suppose I'm going to meet, who am I going to pick up? Radhamada. I want to meet you on the corner of, we're in Chicago, big intersection, Michigan and Ohio Street. And I say, Prabhu, I need to meet you there at 9 o'clock, 8 a.m. on northwest corner. That's pretty clear, right? 9 a.m. tomorrow, northwest corner. What could go wrong? You show up, you're a responsible person. You're there 15 minutes early. He's waiting. Gets to be 9:30, quarter to 10. I mean, look, he's a nice person, but and I were both on the northeast corner of Ohio and Michigan at 9 a.m. Same time, same day, everything same. As soon as we add, let's say there's a building there. All of a sudden, he's on the ground floor. I'm on the 5th floor. 2 dimensions, we're in the exact same place. 3 dimensions, we don't even see each other. So we live in a multi-dimensional universe. Oh, I'm thinking of the time. Do I have your watch, Mukund? I need your watch. Ball game. Somebody else. I'm doing this on my computer. If we have the right device, we then have access to all types of realities. I mean, right now, Amazon, Walmart, movies, they're all here in this room, but we don't see them. You have to get the right device. A computer. You've got the kid's got his homework on it. He's doing his homework on it. The husband's got, what he's gonna, his project. He's working, going to get to Home Depot, what he's going to buy. Suppose the wife works for CIA. Smell what I can taste. We are just like that drunk under the spotlight. So there it is. Science is full of all kinds of fantastic stories. Black holes, dwarf stars, time worms, Big Bang, evolution, general relativity, and quantum mechanics, one of my favorites. One explains the quantum general relativity explains big macro. But when you want to understand, subatomic particles, all of a sudden you got to switch to quantum mechanics. And the far out thing is they're completely opposing theories. Whoever figures out how to have reasonable doubt. We should have reasonable doubt that, wait a minute, there may be another way of understanding the world. We face a knowledge filter. The guy on the right, this is David Bohm. He was a genius. He worked with Oppenheimer on the what is it called? The what is a nuclear bomb? What was that called? No, but there's a name for it anyway. He worked on that. Stopped, but he incidentally went to India, and he was thinking about this unified field theory. Under this is we're looking on this level, and we can't reconcile. We can predict. We make things that work, so we're understanding understanding something, but we can't reconcile. We've got to go deeper to another level, and that's where we'll find the reconciliation. As soon as you're going mystical, you're going, we can't measure, it's beyond our perception. They completely banned it. I think it was at Princeton. They called a convention. David Bohm appeared. You can Google it. David, Bohm. And it was written by David Bohm. That's how, I'm not his, whatever, but I'm saying, the point is, if we present something, there's a knowledge filter. And if it doesn't fit in the paradigm of what people think, if I can't smell it, taste it, touch, it's just filtered out. It's just filtered out. And it's going on to this day. A single cell is more complex than New York City. They used to think, well, it's, under Darwin, it's just a simple saline bag, it's got a few amino acids, therefore very easy to. It's self-replicating, self-assembling, and self-repairing. Try that with a Mercedes. Can we put 2 brand new Mercedes in your garage, and you come back 9 months later, you got a baby Mercedes also? You can start a dealership. It's not a bad idea, But it's self-replicating. It's self-assembling. Your Mercedes doesn't put itself together, and you get a dent in your Mercedes, you got to go to the body shop and pay hundreds of dollars. But this simple thing, everything happened by chance, no design, no rhyme or reason, no higher, reality. That's the presentation. Yeah, gas combustion is about 15% efficient. The gas that goes in and the piston and all that, the energy that propels the car forward. For the energy that goes in, the gas and combustion, that energy only produces 15% forward motion. A little bit better. Steam engine is 30 to 35%. And they're looking. You can be sure that the best and brightest are trying to get the most efficient energy. This little thing with no brain, with no design. That's my point. Is 90% efficient. It happened by chance. Rate. So the sun shining on the ocean pulls up the distilled water. Clouds form, carries it in clouds, beats on the mountains. When it beats on the mountains, it brings out all the minerals, all the nutrition, comes down and flows on the plain, fertilizes all the fields, waters everything, picks up all the waste, drops it in the body of the ocean, and then, so it's a perfect cycle. It's a free energy machine. I mean, ultimately everything in the material has an end, but for millions of years it's going on. And that happened without design and by chance. So who believes they crash? They're one of the biggest pollutants. Jet fuel. They're expensive. They're moving 600 miles, I think, something. An average commercial jet. The sun, the Earth is spinning around the sun 18,000 miles per second. And it's spinning at the same time. So I'm supposed to accept that 120 of the best and brightest to make a small airplane, which is an inferior product when you compare it to planet Earth. 7 billion people spinning around the Earth. We never feel it. Nobody asks you to put a seatbelt on. Nobody gives you a ticket. There's no ghost in the box. You can make a little device like this, and it has a camera. It's infrared sensitive. It's got a little printer. It's got a little voice, a little amplifier speaker, and it can, when the sun rises or sets, it can sing Shakespeare's Ode to the Sun. But is that machine experiencing it? There's no ghost in the box. So the presentation now is everybody believes it, except for the theists. They believe that our sense of self used to be, as big as this room, and all they could do was a little number crunching. Eventually, we're going to get a number. We're going to get it. So all we really are, there's no God, there's no rhyme and reason, there's no soul. All we are is matter operating the laws of physics. And our sense of self, my hand, my eye, who's the I thinking my? That's all just brain function. Well, hang on a minute. This is called the Chinese translation example. So, you know how a booster team, they say, USC. The second card they held up was Go Trojans. What the third card was supposed to be their mascot, whatever it is. The folks from Caltech got in there and at night and shuffled all the cards. So when everybody held up, it's supposed to say USC, it said we suck. The next card they held up, I think it's pretty clever actually. The next card they held up, instead of being the Trojans mascot, it said Go Caltech or whatever. But the third one, they just put them all down. Here's my point, why this matters. We all know those little pocket calculators, right? Translators, pocket translators. You can ask a question in Chinese, and the answer will come out in Chinese or Spanish or French or whatever, right? Now, is there a little Chinaman inside there scratching out an answer and sticking out the end? What's inside there? What's inside? Just circuitry. Circuitry just means it's zero, it's pluses and minus. It's just charges, pluses, negative, and positive charges, which in turn, it's written into code, zeros and ones. So all that's in there, all that's happening in that box, although we give it credit for its sophistication, but all that's happening in that box is a series of impulses, right? You ask in English, on the state, or whatever we're huh? But how was it? 50,000? Yeah, universe. So how many? 50,000? 60? Let's take it up. Let's say 50,000. Okay, you got 50,000 people now. There's no reason that we couldn't design that 50,000 people sitting in that stadium. We couldn't design them like a little translator box. It's like they're holding up the cards. We write the code. If you give me a 0, I give him a 1. If you give me a 1, I give him a 0. In other words, we could take those 50,000 people, write the code by just passing cards, zeros and ones. I could ask a question in English at one end, one goalpost, and it would go all the way through, simply zeros and ones, and I would get the answer in Chinese. There's no reason why that wouldn't happen. Now, here's my question, because the point is you get a sophisticated enough computer, even though it's just zeros and ones, zing, there'll be consciousness, and you'll have, oh, they were translating Chinese? They had no idea. So just as they did not become conscious of Chinese, why all of a sudden zeros and ones, electrical impulses, zing, all of a sudden we become conscious? It is a bluff. It is a book because they don't. Because they're only looking under the stoplight, under the the floodlight, the street light. They won't look at the other logical realities. Okay, the principle is that everything, we can break everything down into small pieces that we can manipulate, and every Lord of all we survey. Who's to say that our little brains, all of a sudden, why a priori is everything subordinate to our intellect? It's an amazingly arrogant claim, frankly. This is the Super Hadron atom smasher. Anyway, I'm going to skip ahead a bit because of the time, just for fun. This one is a favorite of mine, so I'm not going to skip it. This is Parkes Observatory. Like I say, we're not anti-science. I got a computer. It's in Australia. That's what they use. Parkes Observatory. It's the best in the world, one of the best in the world. They started producing about 10 years ago peer-reviewed papers, Scientific American, National Geographic. They were hearing the original bang, that singularity when it first went. They were hearing the sound, the echo of the Big Bang, because they were hearing it out there, way in deep space. Peer-reviewed papers, Princeton, Harvard, Oxford. You know what it turned out to be? Turned out to be, see the spelling, Parkes Observatory, Google it. Turn the door, a burst of whatever it is going on in there, microwave energy came out, and this Parkes telescope was picking up. What they were picking up was the burst of microwave energy from the staff cafeteria microwave oven. They had to recant the whole thing. So my point is, they're stumbling in the dark. Anyway, you get the point. We're going to wrap up in a minute. These are horse blinders. You know when they put those on a horse so the horse doesn't get agitated by things on the side. Suppose I put horse blinders on, and now all I can see is Mukunda Charn and Radha Madhava. I'm sorry, my friend. You don't exist because I don't see you. It doesn't exist. It is profoundly arrogant and profoundly narrow-minded. So here we go. They believe in fantastic stories. We believe in fantastic stories. It's a question of which set fantastic stories do you believe? The simple point is, how can the finite, we are finite, we accept that. Even if I take 0 times 0 to the 0th power, what does it equal? Okay, fine. Now people will say, okay, my senses are limited, but I'm getting, I have this, electric 0 to the 0th power, it's still 0. If I take imperfection times imperfection times imperfection, if imperfect eyes, imperfect limited instrument, imperfect, I'm going to be limited. It's going to be imperfect. So how can the finite understand the infinite? It appears impossible. Classic example. If there was a prankster in the house, and before I sat down on this chair, they poured glue on my seat. You can? How?
You can't make that.
If you take the initiative and come to me, then it becomes very easy. So our point is that we are finite. We have limited senses. I've tried to make the case certainly reasonable doubt that everything is subject to our sense perception. And the point, why we believe in the Vedic literatures and our previous acharyas. It's called the Parampara system. If I have a mango tree, they're ripe on the top of the tree because that's where the sun's hitting them first, And if you try to shake it to get them down, they just fall straight down. And break. I've seen mango harvesters do this. I've seen monkeys do this on Selma. But if you look at those phone lines, they have boosters because going to the friction of the copper or wire or whatever it is we are getting transcendental message from the infinite via the disciplic succession. Krishna spoke to Narada, Narada spoke to Vyasa. In this way, system that makes sense. If we're finite, we want to send the infinite. The infinite has to reveal us. And how does he do that? Simply sentiment. It is not blind faith. It is not frankly, investigated logically, it is the most seamless knowing. Okay, so I think we're a little over time, but we started late. What do we do now? We wrap up, or just tell me that. I'm happy. Go ahead.
Thank you. So yes, so I want to read his question because I promise that. So he asks Maharaj.
And the answer is no. Krishna's that is what matters is what is in our heart. Baba Grihij and what's in our heart of actual love. There's the story. It's Prabhupada's story. So I'll tell it. There, how many more? Oh no. He said, "Where are you going?" Narada Muni said, "I'm going to see Lord Narayan." And he said, "Oh, can you ask Lord Narayan?" Oh, all following all the samskars and everything perfectly. And he saw Narada Muni. He said, "Oh, please ask." Where are you going? I'm going to see Lord Narayan. How many more lives do I have? And let me know what at the end of this life. Kabbalah will go back to God at the end of this life. Okay, Narada. How about the Brahmin? Oh, the Brahmin. Why? What is this 12 more lives? And how do I know you saw Lord Narayan? What was he doing? And Narada Muni said he was. Narada Muni said, one more life, you go back to Godhead. Cobbler's dancing in ecstasy, no worries. And then out of not test, but out of love, he said, "What was my Lord?" doing, what wonderful activity. He seeds hundreds of banyan trees. So if in a tiny seed, Lord Vishnu can embed unlimited trees, how can he not? Of course he. That will be determine our next birth. And if we die thinking about, you know, what's on television or what am I going to eat, or thinking who is my grand filling in pens, they have to work. So it doesn't matter your ashram, it doesn't matter your age, it doesn't.
And Professor Waitness, now please Zoom participants, please unmute yourselves, or you're welcome to type your questions in the chat.
Thank you. I appreciate your message tonight to begin, and thank you for being with us here in Arizona.
If you were
besides Mount Kailash, like that maybe like where Shiva's like emanating this energy from to a degree.
You know what you need to read? Because it's too deep. So it's too much to say now, and I don't want to skip over something. So just and if you don't have a third canto, Bhagavad, the temple can loan you one, and there's a section called Time Calculation from the Atom that explains how it all unfolds. And if you have any questions, you ask the devotees, or you can ask me, no problem. Is that okay? I'm going to take two more because
there's one.
I don't know about you, but I get up early in the morning. And I've got to, couple things. There's so much to say. I'm trying to which one to answer, are beginning to look into this, or we're looking into it. You've got at MIT, now there's several different professors who are consciousness. They're saying it's not just consciousness is not the result of brain function. It is something irreducible in and of itself. It's an element of reality. They it was at University of Chicago, and the guy was one of the top astrophysicists, and his statement was, we have laws of karma. I mean, it's so foolish. Every action has an equal opposite reaction. We all laws of chemistry, laws of physics, laws of mathematics. I mean, there's law. Everything else operates on action and reaction. But we're somehow or other unhinged, separated from all other. I mean, again, show me the seamless logic, but they don't like where it ends. So is Genesis, and I'm asked. I mean, Genesis understood. I read Genesis as a young boy. Oh, it was an interesting story. If your thought of religion means I cannot think outside of this box and everything happened in Genesis, or everything is, happens according to the Quran, and someone born with sight, why these disparities? If God is the father of all living entities, God is equal. I have 2 kids. I mean, they're grown up. Is there all these disparities? How do you explain? Good things happening to bad people and bad things happening to good people. Where's the justice? I believe in such a God. They have no answer. That's a whole other class. But if you, a scientist, spiritual or religious tradition that matches our measurements of the cosmos is the Vedic literature. You wind up teaching, high school physics, in Hoboken, because you can't get a college degree because they blackball you. That's what I'm saying. It's true. It's vicious. And there was another reason I was thinking. And lo and behold, there were devotees. Sadaputu. Who I mentioned earlier, was working in New Verdun, gave up his job at for this purpose. And we have a branch in India. We have a branch in Berkeley. We have another branch that works out of Florida. They're particularly working on consciousness, and they're studying all of these. If you don't have, if you have Origins magazine locally, they have Origins magazine locally. It's put out by our Bhaktivedanta Institute, and that'll get you started. So they're on YouTube. But you ever seen how a building collapses? That 3 buildings in a row, and the one in the building. They just, I always want the building itself, the material will just implode. It'll just collapse on itself. Worldviews change. There was the reductionist, materialistic worldview that we live in. And there's certain theories. This Origins magazine takes those different theories. Darwin, Freud, all that stuff. Eternal soul. Wait a minute, this all didn't happen by chance. There's a designer. And wait a minute. There's a higher dimension. There's a kingdom of God. All of that. There's room is made for that. I appreciate it.
Thank you. She was actually listening. Your class in the morning as well.
I appreciate it.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, such a wonderful.
I'm proud enough. I don't need any more fuel on the fire. Does anyone else have a? No, I don't mean to. I don't want to hurt your feelings. I just. Anyone else have a question? Yes, sir.
The singularity or
So he's asking: are the people, the scientists studying the singularity, are they close to discovering Krishna consciousness?
Krishna or Krishna consciousness?
The thing, consciousness is just brain function. There's some that completely believe, and they're working in that field. You know, there's different Christian describe. If you don't, mind me backing up a bit. There was a professor. He was the day. One of our Satsrupa Swami was visiting one of our senior sannyasi. Was visiting the temple and was giving a series of classes. So Dr. Northcraft was visiting an appointment, some counseling session. And I heard him say, I was just hearing half the conversation. He was using the phone in my office. This is the day before the 13th chapter, Bhagavad Gita. Three modes of material nature, also divisions of faith in Bhagavad Gita, 18th chapter, Bhagavad Gita. He said it is the most profound that those psychological states are defined in Bhagavad Gita. It's the mode of ignorance, mode of passion, what makes it's descriptive. You can self-diagnose by reading, not taking intoxication. There's not just fear of karma. Falling on our head, that's legitimate, but it's a science. Just like you can distill to want to see and are open minded. See it. I mean, even it's an extreme. extreme example, but frankly, the Nazis. Yeah, you okay? You satisfied? Okay. Oh, that was your question. So there are some scientists who are looking, but due to pride, she was studying. You can read Forbidden Archaeology. Get it. You can get it on Google. There's the big, thick one, the unabridged. That is fantastic. But it's a heavy tome. You know, it's like, what is 900 pages? Go on Google. Central Mexico that were much older than what the common, you know, whatever the norm was. It didn't fit in the norm part because I'm a professor. I've made my career. I've got my Sadaputa said, if you want to find your origin of the theory survival for the fittest, he said, watch Professor. What is his name? Anyway, if you check with Montachi, he's passed away now, but he was the head of the medical school, University of Virginia. Ian Stevenson, on that basis. And he was a surgeon, and he had the experience of people having out-of-body experiences. It was evidently, it was, and could describe the operation. And it wasn't like they saw it on, I don't know, whatever this, some cable show or TV show about, bones or doctors or whatever it is.
Okay, battery. Okay, looks like my computer and it needs to break, needs some charging too. So thank you very much. And just to
15. And then Maharaj will be giving a class at 7:35 to 8:15. So please join us tomorrow and then
Rickshaw would be actually close by.
okay. Okay, so we'll meet tomorrow at 7:30. Program with Maharaj. Sorry. 7:30 and 7:05. Thank you so much for joining. Hare Krishna. Okay, so is that